For generations, the cultural landscape of Latin identity has been constrained by rigid rules. It operates like a massive, shifting maze, where the walls are built out of strict expectations around masculinity. Under the traditional framework of machismo, expansive social authority and sexual leniency are granted to men. The script allows them to move freely, while setting the boundaries for everyone else. Mapping out how space is allocated in this dynamic reveals a stark contrast. While the male role occupies a wide open area, the female role is shoved into a highly constricted box, shrinking down to fit expectations. This illustrates Marianismo, the standard that defines a woman's worth by her compliance and subservience. That tight space forces women into a brutal double standard. If a woman exercises the same agency celebrated in men, the box snaps into two isolated points: the Madonna-whore complex, an inescapable trap that punishes any deviation from submissiveness. Forced historical performances demand a painful amount of practiced restraint, inflicting deep psychological scars on the people required to play these roles. This traditional script leaves marginalized diaspora groups culturally fractured and silenced, creating an urgent need to rewrite the rules of their identity from the ground up. The blueprint for this rewrite exists in the work of a grandfather named Gino. He spent years documenting the stories of his Sephardic ancestors, preserving the sacred melodies and customs they carried through centuries of exile from Spain. Gino envisioned these ancestral stories as a tool for healing. He believed the faith of the remnant of Israel could act as a bridge to mend historical wounds and reunite the scattered diaspora. To realize this vision, he helped found Casa Nova. This organization was built to reject traditional patriarchal structures from the very beginning. Gabriella provided the essential physical and financial roots for the project, offering her family's inheritance of Tuscan vineyards to serve as the headquarters. By anchoring the group in female financial agency and ancestral reverence, the founders launched a deliberate counterstructure to the machismo script. Gino formally passed the mandate for this mission to his granddaughter, Lucia. He gave her a faded photograph of musicians and a handwritten letter, charging her to be a shepherd who gathers, restores, and loves. This explicit charge transformed Lucia's connection to her roots, shifting her role from a passive inheritor of trauma to an active shepherdess for her people. This role reclaims female agency. It moves beyond the Marianismo expectation that women remain domestic shadows who nurture and obey, placing Lucia at the center of the community's restoration. Lucia guides the community through a complex core mechanism called the alchemy of souls. This framework prioritizes emotional vulnerability and devotion over the rigid, aggressive authority demanded by traditional masculinity. This shift toward emotionally vulnerable leadership addresses oppressive cultural expectations by making healing a prerequisite for communal growth. Casa Nova has evolved into a vessel for spiritual stewardship. It provides a space where marginalized voices across the diaspora can finally reconcile their histories. Guided by the philosophy of unity without sameness, distinct individual nodes connect into a unified web without losing their unique geometries. This inclusive network expands forcefully outward, fracturing the rigid boundaries that previously kept people isolated in narrow roles. This safe environment protects the fifth frequency of creativity. It allows members to compose original Ladino music, such as the song Prophecy of Hope. These original compositions honor the interconnected histories of the diaspora while bridging generational and religious divides. Through the work of Casa Nova, cultural identity exists as a living narrative rooted in authentic self-expression and collective restoration.
We have seen the need, we have heard the call. We won't remain unmoved, no, we won't let it fall. We answer with courage, here we are. Show us the way, here am I, send me. We're ready, we believe, to lose the bonds of injustice, to lift up the weary, to become repairs of what's broken. Lord, send
Welcome to Casa Nova, restoring the Latin soul. In a world still bound by the rigid scripts of machismo and marianismo, we are building a new vision, a Casa Nova. Join us as we explore communal healing, the power of female leadership, and the journey back to our authentic ancestral heritage. Your host, Lucia, a shepherd for marginalized identities, guides us in prioritizing emotional vulnerability and the powerful principle of unity without sameness. This is where art, devotion, and difficult truths converge for historical and psychological restoration. Get ready to reconcile your past and embrace your future. This is Casa Nova with Lucia. Today, we explore the transition from restrictive cultural norms to a transformative vision of communal healing within the Latin diaspora. We examine how the rigid patriarchal structures of machismo and marianismo have historically suppressed female agency by enforcing submissive gender roles and damaging social double standards. In response to these oppressive scripts, the organization Casa Nova emerges as a restorative force that centers female leadership and the preservation of ancestral heritage. Founded on the spiritual vision of Gino and the resources of Gabriella, the initiative empowers figures like Lucia to act as shepherds who gather and reconcile marginalized identities. By prioritizing emotional vulnerability and the principle of unity without sameness, the movement seeks to replace forced performances with authentic self-expression. Ultimately, the text illustrates a shift toward a more inclusive cultural landscape where art and devotion serve as tools for historical and psychological restoration. Gino's heritage inspired the creation of Casa Nova by serving as a profound call to heal and reunite a scattered diaspora through art and devotion. Throughout his granddaughter Lucia's childhood, Gino shared rich stories that blended his deep faith with their Sephardic heritage, recounting the resilience of mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers who carried sacred melodies and customs from Spain through centuries of exile. He frequently spoke of the remnant of Israel and the power of faith to act as a bridge across generations to heal historical wounds. It was Gino who originally conceived the dream for Casa Nova, envisioning it as a unique sanctuary where music and story could bind together the lost threads of their people and restore what history had scattered. The physical manifestation of this vision was realized through a spiritual creative alliance between Gino and Gabriella. Gabriella provided the essential stage, the physical and financial roots, by offering her family's inheritance of Tuscan vineyards to serve as the headquarters. Gino provided the story, bringing the guiding charter and the sacred lantern seal to the partnership. Together, they founded Casa Nova Productions not through traditional paperwork, but via a spiritual ritual in their vineyard where Gino was charged as the lantern bearer to protect the unity of the fourfold lineage. Gino passed this mandate directly to Lucia. He gave her a faded photograph of musicians alongside a letter that defined the ensemble's future mission, urging her, "Let your gift be for healing. The world needs shepherds, those who gather, restore, and love." This explicit charge transformed Lucia's connection to her roots from passive inheritance into an active, urgent calling, leading her to embrace her identity as a shepherdess for the remnant of Israel. Ultimately, Casa Nova became much more than a musical group. It evolved into a vessel for spiritual stewardship, service, and the reconciliation of the marginalized. This mission is carried forward by a new ensemble that composes original music in Ladino, such as the song Prophecy of Hope, to honor the interconnected histories of the diaspora. While the organization faces trials, including generational gaps and religious divides, it remains rooted in the principle of unity without sameness, striving to protect the fifth frequency of creativity and healing. Thesis Introduction: The Silhouette of Subversion Women Under the Machismo Script. The cultural landscape of Latin identity is systemically shaped by the institution of machismo, a rigid script of masculinity that dictates emotional expression, family roles, and sexual conduct. Within this framework, gender role expectations function as oppressive scripts that enforce a strict binary, creating a stark divide in how individuals move through the world. While the script grants men expansive authority and sexual leniency, it simultaneously defines femininity through compliance and subservience. Women are historically relegated to being shadows who nurtured and obeyed, their worth conditional upon conforming to a submissive standard often referred to as marianismo. Crucial to this systemic inequality is the pronounced sexual double standard. For men, sexual activity is celebrated as a hallmark of virility and social capital. In devastating contrast, women who exhibit the same agency face severe societal judgment, often framed within the Madonna whore complex, where they are relegated to the category of immoral for challenging the patriarchal order. This creates a practice restraint where women must navigate careful boundaries drawn by the men in their lives. However, these roles are not innate but are forced performances that inflict deep psychological scars. This thesis explores the avenues through which women and marginalized groups navigate, resist, and ultimately rewrite these stifling expectations. By surrendering rigid boundaries through frameworks like the alchemy of souls and adopting inclusive philosophies, individuals can build communities that celebrate authentic self-expression over historical gender expectations. Subverting the script Casa Nova as a paradigm of cultural renewal. The institution of machismo has long dictated a rigid script for Latin identity, enforcing oppressive gender binaries and a strict patriarchal hierarchy. Within this traditional framework, power is concentrated in masculine authority while femininity is equated with compliance and subservience. However, Casa Nova emerges as a transformative force, directly challenging these structures to offer a new vision of community. By elevating female leadership, honoring lineage, prioritizing healing, and fostering radical inclusion, Casa Nova effectively rewrites the machismo script into one of authentic self-expression and collective restoration. The mission of Casa Nova directly challenges the rigid patriarchal structures of traditional machismo in several key ways. First, it subverts the expectation of female submissiveness by centering agency and leadership. Historically, women were relegated to being shadows who nurtured and obeyed within the framework of Marianismo. Casa Nova overturns this by rooting its very foundation in female power. The organization was physically and financially established by Gabriella, and its active mandate was passed directly to Lucia. As a shepherdess, Lucia does not merely nurture in the domestic sense. She leads, gathers, and restores the community, reclaiming the autonomy often denied to women under the Madonna horror complex. Furthermore, Casa Nova shifts the cultural focus from male-dominated authority to the profound resilience of female lineage. Traditional machismo grants men expansive social capital and sexual leniency while subjecting women to severe societal judgment. Casa Nova resists this by framing mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers not as subservient dependents, but as the vital carriers of sacred melodies and customs. By celebrating those who navigated practiced restraint through centuries of exile, the organization honors women as the crucial preservers of heritage, ensuring that their strength is no longer a silent performance but a celebrated foundation. In addition to honoring the past, Casa Nova prioritizes emotional healing over the rigid authority demanded by the machismo script. Traditional masculinity enforces a forced performance that dictates strict emotional expression and can inflict deep psychological scars. Casa Nova's mission is centered around emotional vulnerability and the alchemy of souls, a framework that resists stifling expectations through healing rather than aggressive rebellion. Lucia's charge to be a shepherd who gathers, restores, and loves signals a pivot away from oppressive binaries toward a culture where devotion and vulnerability are viewed as essential strengths. Finally, Casa Nova counters the exclusionary nature of the machismo script by building radically inclusive communities. Where the traditional script marginalizes those who do not comply with its double standards, Casa Nova serves as a vessel for the reconciliation of the marginalized. Through the principle of unity without sameness, the organization encourages individuals to surrender rigid boundaries and celebrate identity as an authentic expression rather than a forced performance. This movement represents the ultimate resistance to patriarchal structures, fostering an environment where all members are gathered in their authenticity. In conclusion, Casa Nova provides a powerful alternative to the restrictive architecture of machismo. By reclaiming leadership, honoring female history, and centering the community on healing and inclusion, it offers a path beyond the binary. This shift is not merely a rejection of the past, but a profound rewriting of the future, one where identity is rooted in the authentic soul, rather than a historical performance. Through the work of Casa Nova, the shepherdess leads the way toward a more equitable and restored cultural landscape.
In the vineyard where our story first was sown, I call out through the echo. hopes and courage say, raise the lantern, let it shine. Through the darkness we align, create, unify, prepare our promise, burning everywhere. The storm can never break our song. Together we are brave and strong. The fallen may seek to scatter, to ransom what we dream, but purpose is the river and unity's the stream. They do not fear our rituals, nor silence what we share. Our voices rise together, a banner in the air. Raise the lantern, let it shine. Through the darkness we align, create, unify, prepare our promise, burning everywhere. The storm can never break our song. Together we are brave and strong. Create our shield against the night. Unify the weapon shining bright. Prepare, deliver and fight. Choice with every beating heart and voice. Raise the lantern, let it shine. Through the darkness we align, create, unify, prepare our promise, burning everywhere. The storm can never break our song. Together we are brave and strong. The storm will pass, the dawn will rise. The houses stand beneath new skies. From San Diego to Rome, the blessing carried on. Lanterns glow in every hand. The night at last is gone. We are the three houses, resilient and free, united in hope, in light, in unity. A spark in the dark, it flickers and grows. The fire inside you, only you know. Every step's a climb, every road's a test. But the stars don't shine without the night's unrest. They'll tell you no, they'll say you can't. But whispers fade and hearts still chant. Follow your dreams, let them carry you high, like wings of a bird cutting through the sky. No map, no plan, just the beat in your chest. Follow your dreams, they'll do the rest. your place to stay.
Y'a trop d'œil sur le coupé sport, donc je sors le piano.